All right, welcome to another edition of the Cooker's Corner. We realize it's been a while, but let's face it, wrestling fans don't deserve a weekly show unless I feel like they need one. But I got a guest today that I've known for a long time. He's somebody who loves wrestling more than anybody I've ever met. The hardcore giant himself, Ron Niemi. Ron, I appreciate you coming down for the show. I know it's not right around the corner for you. It wasn't a hop and a skip to get here, and I really appreciate you coming. I've known you for a long time. I respect you. Never liked you, but I respect you. There's a difference. There's a difference.
34 years it's been.
Holy crap.
The first show that I ever actually ran, I promoted, it was called CWF, and I ran a show with Tommy Starr. And the main event for that show was one Mass Superstar, kayfabe, of course, versus Tex Salinger, Dennis Knight. And he was managed by his stepdad at the time, Captain Ron Slinker. So it was such a cool it was kind of overwhelming for me. I was like this 21-year-old Air Force One striper, and I had kind of found my way into the business and was involved as a manager and helping out on Shannon Rose's show and just all kinds of fun things with people like Penelope Paradise were around and Johnny G. Lyon.
On that show against Debbie Malenko.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It was my first show that what they would call creative these days, but I had a huge hand in the booking, and there was people there that I was lucky enough just to come to see what was going on because the Sportatorium wasn't doing anything at the time. So they came and they liked what they saw, or if they didn't like, they still left and talked about it because I leaned toward the violence.
I like it. That main event was spectacular.
It was
all over the place.
Yeah, but honestly, that was the thing with the show, though, is you had a real technically sound match like that with the very, very clear cut who's the heel, who's the baby face. But then I leaned on violence a lot, and it worked. People liked it. We're in this little tiny VFW hall, 3 beers for $1, literally 3 beers for $1, draft. But you gave them a little bit of blood, and this 250 people packed into this building in the middle of the summer at Tampa, Florida. It got hot, and I was lucky enough to meet and work with you, the Southern Posse. Throw out a couple names like Muhammad Stud, Jim the Animal Cooper.
He was with both those guys were with us in Suncoast, right?
Yeah, it was crazy because I broke in right at the height of Suncoast, and I never got to do a show. Henry Reigns, I haven't forgiven you yet. You're bringing, but that's kind of a sore spot with me.
He was at our last show.
He's just rubbing it in, like pouring salt in the wounds. Tell him I said hi. If he ever runs again, what is it, the Manatee Civic Center? Is that where most of the shows were?
There in the Bradenton Auditorium. And we had little house shows here and there.
Yeah, and
Town Estates Gymnasium, which we had some really.
It was a pretty cool circuit down here.
The Mass Superstar was a little bit racist back in the day.
Just
for us at the new Town Estates Gymnasium. Let's just say things.
That was also my first experience with really early on of, no disrespect, but how is there another Mass Superstar? And I was experiencing that while I was breaking in. There was nobody in any hurry whatsoever to expose the business to me. They were stretching me. They were using me to help set up the ring, set up the chairs, hustle tickets because I was active duty.
You think that the Mass Superstar that was on your show was the original Mass Superstar who just quit working out, or?
It was the fact that there could be a different version of a famous character like that. I should have known because Big Time Wrestling Under the Sheet came up to Marquette, Michigan one time, and I had the pleasure of seeing the likes of Superfly Terry Snuka, which was a young Terry Brunk Sabu. Did you really?
Yeah, because a guy named Abdullah Farouk Jr.
Yeah, he was the Detroit guy.
He shows at the Air Force Base here in Florida,
right?
Fairs, and he always brought the Sheik in, and he had Sheik against Bugsy one night. It was me and Buddy Valentine.
Okay.
Terry Superfly Snuka. And Paul Drake.
What a crazy matchup.
Yeah.
I also got to see the likes of H. George Steele. Seeing the local newspaper for the ad that you would see George, but the H, there would be this little tiny H, and the Canadian Road Warrior. So it was kind of like my first experience to a Jerry Gray type of lineup. Right. But on the flip side, those types of characters, but it was just eye-opening to me. But Bruiser Brody still managed to be there. The Bruiser Brody was against a Sheik on top, and it was a cage match, but it was again the first time for me. It was like chicken wire, like the frame was wood, and it was this chicken, just terrible, terrible. And Sheik shouldn't have been working by that point, but all I knew is hey man, I'm watching Bruiser Brody is right in front of me. I got to see him maybe once or twice on TV because we had AWA during Nick Bockwinkel. That's to this day. It's 2025. If you ask me what a world champion is and what they look like when it comes to pro wrestling, it's Nick Bockwinkel. That's it. With the greatest manager ever, with Bobby the Brain Heenan.
He didn't come out and cut off.
You had the pompadour hair and dressed
the part.
You didn't get to see him for free on TV. If Nick Bockwinkel showed up for a studio match, maybe disposing of Kenny the Sodbuster J, or if you're lucky, Jake the Milkman Milliman in about 3 minutes on TV. When I'm 12, 13 years old and seeing this stuff for the first time, I'm hooked.
But,
you know.
Once in a while when they let him go, that match with Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, before he was Mr. Perfect, that 1 hour draw, I think it was like a New Year's Eve 1980 something, let's just say. I guess Nick Bockwinkel?
Unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
And that was the rise.
For all you idiots out there that think wrestling stays better than it was.
Yeah, that was the real beginning of the rise of Kurt Hennig, because when I was just getting into it, Hennig was a very young guy. Yeah.
Who the champion was in that match.
I want to say it was Kurt, but that was where you started getting the feeling of the type of character that became Mr. Perfect. This guy is like, oh, not only is he probably the best, if not one of the best in the business, he knew he was, and he carried himself. I got to have a show one time that I ran over in Pinellas. It was Sean Waltman, X-Pac, versus Kurt Hennig, with Bobby the Brain Heenan taking him to, is at the Pinellas Expo Center. That was on my show, and Steve Kern and Macho Man were signing autographs, and Kurt and Sean are in the back moving around like they've been, serious trauma. They are in absolute agony and moving around like old men. And then that music hit, and they come out to that light, and the fans, all of a sudden it's X-Pac and Mr. Perfect again. Just unbelievable. And it was just, and as soon as they came through the curtain after going out there, and these guys are acting like it's Madison Square Garden, not some little show for me when all my indie local guys are on there, but they helped us get 1,000 people into the building on that day, and that didn't happen on the independent scene, and everybody that was on there got the rub. For them to come out there and not basically just sandbag and take the easy payday, that, again, best example, Bobby Heenan gave me a favor price because of Steve Kern, and just to have him in the building and signing autographs meant so much to me. And in the back, as we're going through the second half of the show, Bobby Heenan, who, by the way, I had no idea how big of a man he is. He's big dude. He's really big. He was just always surrounded by giants. But hey, Ronnie, I was wondering if you could do me a favor. And I said, anything, Brain, anything.
I'll get the shovel.
Whatever you need. Would you mind? I know I was just supposed to be here, sign autographs, and I don't want to steal the heat or the thunder or anything from anybody. Would you mind if I walked Kurt to the ring against Sean? And I'm like, what? Would I mind? Yeah. I'd consider it an honor. And I sat there, if they would have saw my face peeking through that curtain, watching those three guys going to my ring, it's something I'll never forget.
On a side note, Sean's mom was at our wedding.
They've always supported the local scene quietly after he made it so big so early. But he was notorious for, if he wasn't on the road, if there was a show in town, there was a good chance that Sean was going to come walk around the corner. You mind if I watch a show? Come in, by all means. The love for wrestling that just emanates off of a talent like him. And you were lucky enough to come up with and help bring along talent like that for a long time. When did you break into? I think my father said he used to listen to you wrestle on the radio, if I remember correctly.
I broke it in '81.
Wow.
I knew Sean before he even got into it.
Well, I figured you would have been.
You go to shows with me and Penelope.
Wow.
Different.
Yeah, it's again to see, just like now you've had an eye for talent for a long time. There's guys and girls in the state right now that on a different level than what it's been for a long time as far as talent. And I'm going to tell you, things haven't changed with the fact that some of you will never see them, and it won't be because you won't come out and support us. They won't last. This isn't for everybody. There's some people you wish would go away that don't go away. I mean, come on. And there's others that come and you go, hey, there's money in this guy, or I see something. That Richard King guy, I don't know if you've met him. When he walks in the door, and you don't have to know who he is. He's a star just walked in the front door. He carries himself, he looks the part, he dresses the part, he gets in the ring, and these people that just because it's a little indie paid 10 or 15 bucks, they're seeing some guy presenting himself like that. They're going to come back.
Like a superstar Billy Graham. You didn't know who he was.
Didn't have to know. Didn't have to know. Yeah, and now to have the ability to go on top of having that type of ring presence and personality, that again, something radiates. I like to think that outside of the performing in the ring, whether it's managing or now I do commentaries, I felt that I've always had my strength with what they would call a booker back in the day.
You do commentary. Wait a minute now.
I've been dabbling just a little bit. I'm telling you, that's, in all honesty, after all these years, that's what keeps me the busiest now.
I like when you put me over on that Battle World.
See, that's last year. But you remember it, and and I was basically singing the praises of Penelope in that thing as well. But it's a lost art where I'll listen to some of these people that are doing commentary on what I would consider larger indie shows, and I'm going, are you there to put over the talent, or is it yourself, or what are you doing? I want these people again to.
It would have hurt worse if you were honest about it. Oh my God, here comes Bob. Oh, he's old as dirt. Oh my God, he can barely move up. But you put me over.
Yeah, I did. It was, but the thing is, with some guys, it's just made easy. You made it easy for me, and it's, we're joking around and having fun. But in all honesty, when I have a guy that walks in the ring that I have a history with that goes back over 3 decades, pretty easy to look good when it comes to telling stories. I got a lot of them. So when I have veterans, especially those that have really put the time in and have grinded, that have come through Florida, I've seen that, and I've worked with all of them. Some of them, again, like I mentioned before, I wish there was some guys. Chris Nelson not being at wrestling shows is a disservice to the business. That's an example that I give. I managed him all over the place too.
One match with Chris, and he complains to this day that I have no memory because I don't.
And I'm sure
there's pictures of it. So what happened?
Well, it had to happen then, unless it's some elaborate hoax. You know how that Chris Nelson can be.
It was long before Photoshop.
He was doing deep fakes before they were deep fakes. But he was one of those guys that we were really young coming up together. And we would again find ourselves working major matches at the Sportatorium and just getting, brutalized by the likes of Jimmy Del Rey, Jimmy Backlund at the time, Mark Starr, and these monsters that were there to teach lessons. But I also got to go to the Cayman Islands with him and got to manage him. And we were told, there was one thing they told us, and it was, do not go in the crowd. Well, we ain't sure. Hey, out goes Chris, shit cans the guy that he's in there with. I'm immediately all over this guy at ringside, and everybody goes up. And it was crazy. They were right. We shouldn't have went into the crowd. And it was a very large crowd. I think you probably even met Keith before. Keith was the guy that was responsible for getting us there and was the local hero, and he looked like $1 million. He couldn't wrestle like $10, but he did look like $1 million, and they were behind him. They loved him. Well, here we are, trying to commit premeditated murder in front of the hometown, and it got wild. I'll still remember, I keep saying their names, but Mark Starr and Jimmy Del Rey and a bunch of the other guys are on the ramp screaming for us to come their way, and they're keeping people off of us. It was just epic. And we got in the back, and between people yelling at us and people patting us on the back, it was a little confusing, but what a wild time that was.
Those are the good times. Back on them, your life is at risk, but you're not thinking about it then. Think back now, it's a great memory. I lived, and it was a great memory.
Well, it's a rush, but to to be able to, again, I hate using the term, especially when it comes to myself, because I'm not going to act like I don't have an ego, but to have never have made it as a guy that made a living in this business. I'm from the middle of nowhere in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. To have been on TV and to get to travel to different states, and I've gotten to go to England, Puerto Rico, Cayman Islands because of wrestling. Uh, I made it. My wife has stuck with me through all of this. I don't know why. We're still together. We both still have great jobs. We served 8 years together in the Air Force, and we've been to hell and back. I don't.
I know what that's like.
There's been a lot of times, to be serious for a minute, over the years, me and you were never the type that were the hang around types. We always hit it off when we see each other at shows, but we both several years ago were in a bad spot, and we both tend to react in a way that takes bad situations and makes them far worse. It's scorched earth, and nobody walks out of this thing. On everybody, I'm sorry, I correct myself. Seems everybody gets to walk away unscathed, but we do horrible things to ourselves emotionally with this. I've came a long way since then. I would say, the fact that I see you out in public and attending shows and being a leader, and yeah, well, that's
And my
that's
wife and I are in good terms now.
awesome. Yeah, but
She bought me these.
well, then she's okay in my book. But it's funny that you never know until you're in that spot who will, who's going to step up when you need somebody to step up. And sadly, the ones that you would expect normally aren't. But on the flip side of that, when you have true friends step up when you're down, it motivated me, still does, where, I come to the Legends Lunch that you have a big part of making those things happen, to get the respect and how I'm treated when I walk through there, not just by my guys or the young guys, but veterans that I think are wrestling stars that I used to watch on TV.
I feel that way too.
It's the biggest rush in the world. It isn't just who's that guy.
That's why I always say when a fan says, well, who is he, or he was just a jobber, I don't care what they.
Who cares?
What your peer. When Haku can walk up to you and give you a hug and say, I love you, brother, that means more to me than anything.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And
Brian put you over on the mic. I mean, that means.
Yeah. Is it?
If you can hear what he's saying, because some of those people don't know what to shut up.
I'm wishing there. What did anybody talk to Penelope since that deal?
I have.
Have you? Was that intro meant to go Broadway?
Yeah. She's had it all written. Penelope, once you get going, that's what we call Penelope mode.
Yeah, it's so cool again, where it's like stepping back in time. I've got this picture amongst all my stuff that it was outside of the public access TV studios way back in the day. It was Shannon, outside Shannon's show, and it was me and my son Ronnie, who's 34 now, and he was, I think, one baby.
Guy to knock Shannon down.
Good, thank God, somebody had to.
And the show.
Well, in this picture, it was me and my son Shannon. Do you remember Paul Spiegel?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Penelope and Big Tim. He used to work as a Big Tim Steele. Remember that big giant guy? Yeah. I look back at that stuff and I'm like, that's another lifetime ago.
I wish those shows would surface.
There is some stuff out there.
Rob Yada got in a big brawl, and Penelope's biting Robbie's butt. That's the one where I knocked Shannon. There's a clip of that, like on some.
Henry don't have the tapes to that stuff.
Not Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Oh no. Okay, I'm sorry. Shannon used to have that stuff. I can't remember where he had it saved. I must have did 50 of those shows. That's how I first, truthfully, snuck in the back door. Is I would call and answer the trivia question and get it right every week, because the call volume wasn't heavy and I always knew the answer. So I kept getting freebies to the Sportatorium. They got sick of you. Actually, I met him at the school. Yeah, I met him over at is it Lazy Lane? I can't. Yeah, I met him over there. Frankie Reyes was nice enough to take me there. Believe it or not, now this is again sidetracking. This is even better. Right from the very beginning, Frankie Reyes was very instrumental in me getting in with Malenko for sure, and always protected me anytime if he was the booker or if he was close to the booker. He protected me to the point that others really didn't like it much, but I didn't care, and it got me farther faster. But on a personal note, me and him were so close that his what's now his former son-in-law, Dominic, he officiated me and Terry's wedding. That's who officiated our wedding. So it was, I mean, you come to that wedding. Of course, Frankie was there, and then Dominic officiated, but it was nothing. Yeah, I think it's in the mail. It's still in the mail. You had recently moved that.
Trump made it so the mail can't be delivered.
Oh my God! Don't even no politics talk. I'm
what were the rest?
Oh my God! I'm so not into it, and I can't help but to go to CNN and Fox News regularly every day to just see what the next troll is that Trump is going to do. He is literally dealing out receipts like there's just, hey, he isn't done. He's being a heel, but you know what? A lot of people, probably about 50% of them, tend to like the heel these days. So
I was always a fan of the heel.
Well, you know, he's over right now, and things are happening, and it's wild to be in Florida when things heat up like this. It is a little different now though, because I mean I'm from out of town, but I've been here since '89. I've been here a long time, but there's a lot of new northerners, northeast more than anything, and then the West Coast people have moved in, and they're just like, what the F is going on? We do whatever we want here. Nobody cares, no. Don't bother getting offended. Nobody cares if you are here. What a waste of time, eh?
Some people wake up. Hey, you just said, what are you from?
I'm sorry. That's a Uper. I'm getting real comfortable. That's my Uper accent coming out. Only going to be 4 hours away from the UP on. I'm going to be in Milwaukee on Saturday, and actually my son is going to drive down from Ishpeming to come and visit me. So that's really cool.
I'd like to go back to my hometown in Michigan just so I can be offended at how much changed.
What, like Ann Arbor?
No, I was from Portland, Michigan.
Portland.
Born in Ann Arbor, lived in Portland.
Because Ann Arbor is just, I'm an enormous Michigan Wolverines fan, to the point of I always tell people that that's actually my birthmark right there. But I mean, I am a diehard Wolverine, and I've only been through Ann Arbor once.
Well, I love you. Wow. Anyone to ever walk yours, and I would never get a tattoo. I'm just saying.
I thought you had one.
No,
I
thought about it.
I thought you had one in a special place. You heard that giggle. Guilty as charged, Your Honor.
If I was going to get a tattoo, I was going to get one like, what would Terry do? That's what that means right there.
Is that what that is?
WWTD.
What would Terry do? That's cool. I was seeing something. Somebody was showing something the other day where Muda and Funk and Gary Hart were in it. It had to have been WCW. Is that 89-ish? Yeah. Just hot, violent, bloody. I remember where they put the plastic bag over Flair's head and the green mist and the blood. That was very worrisome. I liked heavy. Oh, he had gotten the green mist sprayed and he's got sick collar already. Now he gets the green mist sprayed, and even I, who am like I'm hoping I figured it out, but I'm concerned. Well, now Funk takes the plastic bag and puts it over his head, and as he's beating him to death, the bag is nothing but fogged up because of the breathing, but green and then red blooded. I was like, what are they doing? It was so exciting. But wrestling, that WCW and
AEW tried to replicate that recently.
Yeah, but you can't. You're watching a tape and then having to, I didn't know who did it. And I'm AEW, there's guys that I really, really like that are making a real lot of money there. And I'm happy for them. But I just wish there was one or two that loved wrestling enough to go, hey, enough. You gotta make some sense. How come everyone's got screwdrivers and scissors and
how many factions do you need?
But you can't. Don Callis is a manager with a faction that never goes to the ring with them. Holy. Do you actually watch it? I can't. And I have nothing against him.
I don't really enjoy it much, but I do watch it.
Oof. See, I want bad wrestling to be.
MJF.
I'm in the moving industry for my shoot job and have been for a long time at a company I used to run in Tampa. We actually moved him and his wife to Texas. It was really cool. Yeah. No, Dustin. Yeah, MJF would have been a kindergartner probably at the time. I'm advanced. I turned 55 on the 23rd. Can you believe that? Don't let these boyish good looks fool you.
55, went from 37 now.
You're going backwards. Is that the old Benjamin Button, or is that a reverse Benjamin Button?
I'm blessed.
You are blessed. And you're talking about being blessed, and I'm going through the internet on Facebook. I'm scrolling. Do you have another match coming up again?
Oh, I do. Right here at the Twisted Wrestling Alliance Studios, March 15th, myself, Pablo Marquez.
Oh, Pablo.
Taking on Jimmy McDowell, Golden Boy Jimmy McDowell. That's how you pronounce it. Who cares how you pronounce it? I don't care. And his partner, Johnny Walker. You ever heard of Johnny Walker? We're not talking about Mr. SG with the knee lift.
Yeah, Johnny teams with one of my buddies that wrestles as Torture. They do they team together. Torture is one of the gorgeous beard. It's amazing. But to have a gimmick where you breathe fire and you got a Grizzly Adams non-moistened beard on your face at the same time.
There's no way we can do the fire.
But he's one of those guys too. We go back to, he trained at my old WrestlePlex school under Navy SEAL. And so he came up with a bunch of good talent, but he's got such a big personality and booming, but he's never been too big to not. He'll still show up at an indie show, buy a ticket.
Well, we invited him here and he didn't show up. So
it is a bit of a hike, though. Yeah, I think he's over on St. Pete Clearwater side or something.
Wrestlers know all about hikes. I drove all the way to Michigan and back one time, all the way.
That's because you wouldn't fly.
And came back. Well, they wouldn't offer us to fly. WCW didn't fly to losers. I mean, guys like me.
Did you ever take the trip with Cube and Penzer and that crew, or were you guys a totally separate crew?
I was with Dave all the
time. You were? Because I remember, when I'm talking when like Bill Payne and Butch Long and Seal and Bucky and all that started going, it was one of these.
Dave would rent the vans and I would rent something over here sometimes. Sometimes I'd ride with Dave, sometimes
I'd ride with my crew. Well, what was tough for me at the time was I was trying really hard in Plant City, and then I'd run stuff in Tampa and St. Pete or whatever, but I was trying really hard to get some local guys over legitimately as local stars and trying to use the papers and the radio and everything I could. Plus, I had tons of influence with Pro Wrestling Illustrated and stuff early, and I kept that until Brandy left a few years ago. But I would be pushing guys as champions or contenders or whatever, and they would be getting jobbed out on WWF Superstars in the morning. And then at 6:05 on the same night, you might see them on there losing. And I'm just going, I'm so happy that you guys are making a little bit of money. And I couldn't afford, along with every other indie then. There was no money. You'd get, it was more the lifestyle. And if you weren't a partier, yeah, you can make a few bucks. But I knew very few that didn't party. Oh, but if you were trying to sell tickets, and they're going, well, I can stay at home and watch them for 3 minutes twice today. To lose to the American Males and to the Red Rooster. Good, you know what I mean?
I never worked with Terry Taylor. That's one of the people I'd like to work with.
He's still floating around the business.
He works for NXT or WWE.
I was surprised when we got the WWE ID and NXT is sending matches now to the WWN shows, so FIP and Shine, and for each match they send an agent, which is very cool. It's almost like it's two shows within each other. The WWE ones are totally, we have no say over what happens. But Lindsay Dorado came walking in the door, and I had no clue. He's got a job as an agent. Ace Steel has showed up a couple times.
He works for them now.
I'm sure as soon as Punk went. Yeah, but for me to, I get excited when the quality of the show goes up that quickly. I mean, these kids, even the ones that are green. They look like stars, big time.
What's going on is that Triple H has changed the game
in a big way. Well, acknowledging this, think of the simplicity of this. Acknowledging an entire universe that exists, a whole farm system that you're not paying for. Now you get to give them just a little bit of a rub, just a little, and you sign guys that might have a slim chance of making it. That's one less talent for AEW to get later. And it's exactly what that's what they're doing. So the well has, to say it's run dry. Like if I'm a name professional wrestler, or if I'm a what should be considered a hot indie guy on the rise, if I'm not signed right now, I'm starting to second guess what I do for a living. I mean, there is so much money being offered to people that would have been lucky to get nightlies before. I knew mid-card AEW guys, and when I say mid-card, that's, hey man, put me on the mid-card on national TV. That's not an insult. It's but mid-card guys that were moving into much nicer neighborhoods than what I live in Wesley Chapel and paying cash. They're paying cash. These are 20 and young 30-something-year-old guys and girls, and they are owning their own homes.
Why can't we find money?
You know what? I never had that ability, and it kind of got me heat sometimes with veterans because they thought that you're not one of the boys. You're a promoter. Don't be a mark. Go out and find the money, find sponsors, find backers, whatever. And I don't have that ability because as soon as that person who is about to open up their wallet tells me one of their dumb ideas, I'm done with them because I can't keep my mouth shut.
Right, they want to.
I don't care. I don't care what you think about the wrestling. Just tell me it's really good, or say something even nicer and give me all the credit. That's all I want to hear, right?
Give me the money and the credit.
That's it. But you know, hey, I saw this guy that somebody's caught him online and convinces them that they're a wrestling star, not a you. I can't do it. So I've always been very, very independent, and I put over Frankie earlier, but me and him had what was a very quiet but big falling out because I just couldn't do it anybody else's way anymore. And I started IPW. Well, Mike Peskin handed me. Yeah. I mean, but I'm unfairly shitty when I decide I'm at odds with you. Even if you don't, maybe you've forgotten I exist. I'll remind you every now and then. I was like that. I'll be on. A couple of my friends aren't happy with to this day. I would not make things right with Howard Brody till the very end. And
I had a little point out, but we made up.
Well, I got to the point where how many times can we have the falling out, and to where I go, this sounds dramatic, but were we ever okay? Because when it seems like you think you're getting things going, all of a sudden we have heat again, and I'm always doing shit the same. I just, that gets old.
You know what brought Howard and I back together after we had our falling out? The rumor online that Terry Funk wasn't doing well.
And you both reached out?
No, Howard just called me out of the blue and he said, Bob, I know we have our differences, but I know you love Terry to death.
That's class.
I know that I just talked to Terry, and the rumors aren't true. He's dealing with some stuff, but it's not as serious as I'm making.
That's awesome.
He goes, I just wanted to let you know that. And then we talked for like an hour. We
passed up. Well, for him to
now he's dead. So if you got grudges, fix them, or you're going to regret it someday.
He's right.
Me and Gennard Sully had a falling out years ago.
Was that the guy that got
Gordon's brother, our sister?
Son. He was the one that you guys were going to honor me in the Legends lunch, and then you added him, and I threw a big tantrum and insisted to take myself off.
I remember. Yeah. Did we take you off? I don't remember.
Yeah. And then made me.
I think we honored that guy, John Gailey.
It was Johnny showed up he was there the other day. Yeah, Johnny.
Penelope, I introduced to Penelope and him were good.
Johnny Favorite, right?
I don't know what
Yeah. He was a manager. Johnny Favorite.
For years, but when I first met Penelope, he was friends with her. She saw him at the Legend. Hey, remember this guy? And she goes, "Oh, it's John Galen." She's like, "Oh,
yeah, he's Johnny Favorite." He used to be with that Alicia girl that would run the B shows at the Sportatorium on Thursdays.
We banned Gennard Sully from the Legends for being his true self. He turned on Brian. He turned on Cuban.
So I was right for doing it then.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hey.
All over politics. It was all over politics.
What politics could there be?
A Trump hater, but
all the real politics.
Oh yeah. If you separate friendship.
There's something wrong with you.
Because the politicians they don't care.
No.
None of them.
No matter what side you're on. I got a buddy that lives in Thailand that he used to wrestle as the Bug, but he's the Bug. He's insanely successful in the video game industry, and he's over in Thailand now. And more interesting side note, but he was working for World of Tanks in Belarus and was living there for a couple of years and had to flee the country when the whole Ukraine-Russian gimmick happened. So he bailed, and now he's a freelance video game guy. As a matter of fact, you know August Artois? Have you met him yet?
Frankie Kidasso's funeral.
Yes, August and Sideshow, who used to wrestle as OG Scarface, they're in Thailand right now.
Were you at Frankie's funeral?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So many there, I don't know.
Everyone was so tall, I just kind of got lost. I was way under the radar.
Isn't that always the case?
Pretty much. There it was. You know what was crazy about there is MVP is there. Mike Knox is there. Big Drew.
Gallows?
Gallows is there. It was just a who's who. And everybody, me and Frankie had I'm not even going to say a love-hate relationship. We were legitimately, truly brothers.
Everybody was there except the guy who was supposed to do the eulogy. Showed up late.
Who was supposed to do the eulogy?
I don't know who that guy was. Came in like an hour late.
I was pretty much in shock, so I don't even remember. But me and him went insane amount of who? I'm wearing a Gangrel Wrestling Asylum gimmick there. I did for the last year or year and a half that the school and his shows were going. I was doing the commentary for that, and was that fun too. I'd show up. He let me show up when I wanted to a degree. So I would never be there early, and I would come in, sit down, they'd hand me the format. I would never go in the back. I had no idea, except for on the format, who was walking through that curtain. And I remember there were some guys I recognized, and then there were some new ones, and then Layla Gray walked out of that curtain. I couldn't believe. She's talented immediately, you could tell it, but it's just bombshell. To the point I took off my headset, leaned over to the guy I was doing commentary with, and said, "What is she doing here?" I couldn't believe it. What's that?
You get a reaction.
I couldn't believe it. And I put the headset and I'd go back in the deal. But it was a different version of this. The kind of what we did at the WrestlePlex back in the day. As soon as I walked in here, you seen I just lit up. This reminds me of, again, the Sportatorium.
This is something that I envisioned when I was a kid. We had a garage when I was a kid.
I don't think I would even ever thought it was possible, though. I don't. That's the thing. I could never have visualized being able to do this. And it's, even if you never had a match in here, the studio and the app, it's comfortable. I feel like I'm in the coolest living room ever. And it's loose. Yeah, got AC in here, and that's unheard of. It's, how many buildings did we work in where the idea of getting AC? Oh, well, not everything can be perfect, guys. But you were based, as far as the independent stuff, in between your TVs and everything, you were based mainly in the southern part of Florida, right?
Right up the road.
Okay.
Because I lived since 1975 until
it was you were one of the few, though, that you crossed over, because people say wrestling's cliquey now. It wasn't. I don't know if I'd call it as cliquey back then, but there was definitely an unwritten status. And if you were a Malenko guy, or if you were a Sportatorium guy, or if you were later a Brett Sawyer guy, I still ask, if I meet a wrestler, one of the first things I ask them is where they trained. I've already formed some of my opinion based off of that answer.
I always like to tell the story of how important Malenko was. Is when I first worked for the WWF in '95, thanks to Jimmy Becklin, they were rounding up guys that had never been there before.
Right.
Killer Kowalski was one of the agents. They come over to me. He came over to me and he said, "So, how long you been working?" I said, "About 15 years." He said, "Who trained you?" I said, "The great Malenko." He said, "Malenko, go sit down. We don't got to see you. We know you can work."
You're fine. Yeah, that was it.
I always took that as like, that's the respect of Malenko.
Yeah, get out of jail free card, literally.
And I always hated practicing anyways. I don't want to go up there.
Yeah, it hurts a lot more too when you're, it's totally different. Yeah, there's no adrenaline going. It's always, the one thing that's just fascinated me. I spent a lot of time in Deep South after the Shanes and MVP and that got signed, and what's that?
Jody Hamilton.
Yes, for Jody Hamilton. Me and Frankie used to make the road trips there, and he was being used as enhancement, and I was doing commentary. We really didn't know what was or wasn't TV, but I was, I think, on the B team, but got to do a lot of stuff with Bill DeMott. Matt Stryker was around, so I got to do a lot of commentary with him, but it was just the feeling of we weren't making any money, and it surely wasn't glamorous, but hey, I knew even the practice matches, they'd have us sit down, so I know they were hearing my voice every week based on the feedback tape sent on the students. And now it's the same thing with WWE ID. I don't have any delusions that they're going to call me up and say, hey, Ron, we're looking for a 5'6", 200-pound, gravelly voiced gray dude with a Canadian accent. Are you available? That would have happened a long time ago. So the idea, again, of driving to a show like in Clearwater, an hour away, going and working for Sal for the 1,000th time, and then a couple of days later, a WWE account is posting it, and I'm getting to listen to myself. I'll never stop doing this until the phone stops ringing. And my attitude with that, even this may sound selfish, but if the phone stops ringing, I'll just do my own thing.
You just stop booking me on a show. Find an excuse not to show
If you were closer, you would regret it, because every time I run anything, I always call Rick Thames. Rick, can you come up? Here's the date. Can you come and help me out? He goes, what do you need me to do? Anything, whatever. Can you run the back? If I give you, here's the lineup, here's who I want up, here's how much time, can you take it from here? Hand it off. I don't have to worry about anything anymore. Now I can pace and watch people hopefully coming through the door, and then watch the matches and watch how the people are reacting.
Fix what you think's wrong for the next show.
Dude, I did something the last show that I haven't done in a long time. I came down. It was they were getting a real good reaction, both babies and heel. And I went and I stood in almost every single zone or area that fans could sit or stand, and I was getting the feel of what was going on. And a couple of these areas were just hot. They were hot. That these people are going to be back, and I think they'll go. That'll be their spot where I can feel the energy. Where okay, well maybe this isn't just a quarterly spot show at VFW. Maybe I could. I don't run angles there. I don't have any programs because they're all standalone shows. Like the next one I've got. Listen to this shit. Right now I'm just waiting on one more confirmation, but it's looking like Bruce Santee and John Davis versus Brian Brock and Steve Madison. Who else is putting that together? And everybody will come out. If it's in St. Pete, Bruce is like a St. Pete wrestling legend. And I'm not throwing that term around. Everyone knows who he is, and they all come out. And Steve Madison is not only, you have seen this, he's in the best condition he's ever been in. He's a local hero, him and his wife as firemen. And his family is long-term supporters of wrestling in the Tampa Bay area. They'll all come out to see him. So yeah, but Brian's a star. How is he even available for me to be able to use it? That's criminal. And especially when he's been seen. He did some MLW. They even got a little bit of a push there. So if you've appeared on MLW TV, trust me, the WWE knows you exist. And I know he doesn't have the body of cosmetically what the WWE is looking for, but how do you know what you're looking for? I got into wrestling. A big part of it was because of the Jerry Blackwells and the Abdullah the Butchers. And, when it came to a stable like the Freaks with Paul Jones' Army, T.J. Khan and Baron Von Raschke finds his way in there. I actually had a T-shirt way back around 82, and it was the Baron. And on the back, it said, "That's all the people need to know." What a great shirt.
Yeah. That'd be worth some money nowadays. Some of those old shirts.
I wore it to death. At the same time, here's a good story for the wrestling nuts out there. I bought this shirt that said I helped bring back the Hulk. Well, Hulk had been chasing Bockwinkel unsuccessfully, just packing houses throughout Minnesota and out in Denver and over in California. They're killing.
The Hulk didn't know how to work.
Stop. And I mean, he's chasing, and these people, they're behind him. And he gets one last shot. I want to say it's in Minnesota. Bockwinkel and Heenan screw him. Well, Hulk leaves in disgrace. What he's actually doing is he's over touring Japan and winning the first ever IWGP championship.
Antonio Inoki.
Yes. So he won the first ever IWGP. And at the time on TV every week, they're telling us Hulk he's not coming back, guys. He can't face you people that you've let down so badly. So we all started buying the merch that talked him into coming back. But they kind of crossed it over where he came back on TV doing the big baby face, conquering hero, returning. But then Mr. Saito attacks him with the IWGP trophy, waffles Hogan, gets collar. So now here he is on the return that we think we've said we're going to help save the AWA. We got Hulk. He's finally going to beat Nick Bockwinkel. And here's the debut of Saito, who, good luck finding somebody that looks more of a badass than 1982 or 3 Mr. Saito. Come on. And then they have, and again, it was AWA. We never seen some crazy trophy like the IWGP. You know, Japanese wrestling trophies are just spectacular and huge. I can't believe how they got it over. I'm wondering how they got it. Now that you mention it, they couldn't have had a duplicate made here. Do you think? See, that sounds like a conspiracy I might start.
I think he had them in his office for years.
Maybe that's what happened.
Make a special.
But here comes Saito with the just. He was so compact and jacked, and here he comes, and who's this? A tough guy, you know, and takes out Hogan. Blood. What's going on? I got to see during that time frame. For some reason, the AWA came to Marquette, Michigan, and I got to see Hulk versus Dr. D. David Schultz on top, and Saito did a run-in. I nearly exploded and went flying through the ceiling. It was so. It's cool enough that I remember it. Oh, I had the short time of when I found wrestling. I think my grandma was watching Lawrence Welk one night, and I unfortunately am sitting there being subjected. That'd probably be child abuse these days. But then all of a sudden, here's this all-star wrestling, and I want to say the background was black and white out of us. It was an arena show, and I seen Mad Dog Vachon. I'm like, what is going on here? You know, and then you had Bockwinkel, and I can't remember who exactly, everybody, but within a short time, Mr. Saito and Ken Patera nearly killed those cops when they were hammered, and they were trying to get into McDonald's at like 3 a.m, and then started throwing those giant rocks through the windows, and these poor Wisconsin cops show up. Here's an Olympic weightlifting Ken Patera, and the most jacked Japanese guy in Wisconsin at the time. First of all, they're like, they're probably worried that they were being invaded or something like that. Well, then they attacked the cops, and they went to prison for like 2 or 3 years, right?
Picture in the paper with the handcuffs.
Yeah. But it was really strange because, like, I have a poster on my wall that was, I think, the 83, maybe early 84 roster, and it really wasn't a lot of wrestlers. You know, they'd get a lot of matchups, but every once in a while they'd freshen it up. Like, I remember toward the end of the really good stuff, it was right after the Road Warriors, and like the fabulous ones were coming in. This is the first time we were seeing like music videos and stuff. But when people think, when I'm talking of like the glory days of AWA, they think of ESPN. I'm thinking of the studio stuff before then. But when it went to ESPN, and it was like Martel, Hennig, I think Stan Hansen even ended up with the title. Do you remember, though, out of nowhere, it went from, okay, obviously Hogan took a lot with him, but it was still, you still had main event talent there, to all of a sudden you're watching like Earthquake Ferris.
Yeah. You also had Jerry the King Lawler.
But when they had Lawler come in and do the stuff with over the belt with Hennig, and then they tried the insanity with involving World Class. So you had trying to unify the World Class, the AWA, and I think it was the CWA was Memphis back then. But they're trying to unify these belts, and you got 3 promoters who will not agree on their guy going under. So how did you not have that conversation? Because Super Clash, they couldn't. It was like just please give us a finish. You know, and I think there was only like, wasn't there like 3,000 people there or something?
The main event was good for what it was.
I don't think the wrestling was bad at all. Again, they were still, but you were rated of, you know, I think Cornette was talking about it, that at least within like the last week or so, it wasn't just that you took a majority of the real big heavy hitter stars. You took the face of the company, as far as Mean Gene Okerlund, the voice of the company. But then they were even, I think, well, they even took like the D-list commentators and stuff.
Yeah, Ken Resnick.
Yeah, I think even Gary DeRusha or somebody, I'm pretty sure he came over, but they grabbed a lot of the promoters, the the guys that were agents and stuff back then. So again, the crash and the fail to realize, like, I don't think Byrne didn't realize what was happening until way too late, like way too late. Because I think he would have had time to at least just get out clean and give those guys opportunities to, hey, we're going to close down shop, but we're not going to get the word out. So go and get what you can.
Didn't Hulk? Byrne wanted a piece of Hulk's merchandise money. It was really.
I think it was that, and was either trying to block him doing Rocky 3 or he wanted a piece of that.
I think Rocky 3 was Vince McMahon Senior.
That was Senior that did that.
That was before he went to AWA.
I'm old. My sometimes the timeline gets a little fuzzy. I'm sure I mentioned it already.
According to Hogan, anyway.
Wait, did you see him the other day? I just saw clips of it, but he's on McAfee, and still he's not realizing this is part of why they're booing you. He just doesn't stop lying. And he's saying he knew they were going to boo, and he wanted to cut a heel promo, but it didn't make sense with it being a corporate sponsorship. I'm going, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
This is why they hate you. They hate you because you got racist stuff on tape. You know, good luck overcoming that.
But regardless of that, he did apologize for that profusely all over the country.
He did. He did.
Anybody who can't get over that can get over themselves.
I understand, but the points kind of, they just keep adding up, yeah. and past sins tend to come up when people are looking for reasons to chase you off. Right now, the WWE is so cool. So I watch it, and first time in years where I'm watching Raw. I don't even care about the matches. I don't think the crowds care about the matches, to be honest. At the pay-per-views, they do. But they're there for they're there for entrances, they're there for catchphrases, and they're there for finishers. But again, I messaged you about it the other day. There's very few pops in history that was as big as Alexa Bliss's entrance. And it wasn't just how, boom, it went on. That entrance, she's tinier than me. It would take me at least 10 minutes to walk from that entrance to the ring, and her tiny little legs are going. These people are, hey, they're building. And it was like, again, a nuclear explosion for the initial pop, which, by the way, man, you've been in front of really big crowds. I can't imagine absorbing that kind of energy. No matter how exciting I can't. I've gotten in front of what I thought was big crowds, and I felt like I was going to explode into a million pieces from the energy, adrenaline, and probably anxiety. And you know, usually when it's cliche, but when the red light's on, I'm all of a sudden cool and I pace for hours before that. There's been moments where I thought I found myself on shows that to you or to somebody who's made a living or a lot of money in this wouldn't have been a big deal to them. If I'm in front of 1,000 people or more, that's a lot of people. That's the way I feel about it, you know, and comes from, I've not only done indies for going on 34 years, I never stop. You know what I mean? There's never a window where you can go, hey, there's the couple years Ron was gone. I moved to Georgia even for 3 years, and I still didn't stop.
I get hobo anxiety even doing this, let alone even here.
Yeah.
50 people are giving me
Yeah,
anxiety.
my anxiety is the worrying beforehand. Again, this has not helped me either with getting jobs at the next level. I'm a terrible preparer. And I'm an unbelievable improviser. I can call wrestling on the fly for hours if they want me to. That's the way I believe. I don't want to know the finish. And I understand with TV, especially with live TV, that every second is so precious and you can't afford to miss spots or go over or under, or for your commentators to not know the finish. But I'm not the guy that throws it around terms like organic, but there is a major difference if you're into listening to what I do when I'm on these shows. There's a huge difference between me being genuinely surprised or shocked or impressed or blown out of the water instead of going, hey, the finish is going right now in my ear. I don't want, you know what I mean? I want to be excited. Again, I do understand when you're being paid hundreds of millions of dollars for content and every second means something and is metered and they break down the ratings by quarter hours, I understand. But when I'm on indies or glorified indies, just let me do my thing. If you didn't think I could do it, then don't ask me to be there. It's that simple. And I think that's why I get along and do so well with Sal, because he has no interest in being involved in the wrestling at all. So the fact that I don't want his input makes me like the most over guy there because I never have a question. Never. You know, about 10 seconds before every single time I'll look over and he's sitting to my right a few table lengths away. I'll look over, he'll look over at the same dumb face he's got, give me the thumbs up, I'll do the same, and we're off and running.
See, I'd get annoyed by that too if I was him. Like Rick Ryder promoted the show once, Punta Gorda down the road. He wanted me to put it together. I put it together. I just went in the dressing room where everybody was and said, "Hey guys, thanks for coming. Don't get hurt. Have fun." Boom. And I went to the dressing room next door and sat with Bugsy and talked.
Yeah.
But then Anthony Devlin and this kid used to wear a suit. Like,
oh, Maxwell Chicago.
They're having a match.
Yeah, he wanted to know everything.
No, they would come in and say, "Hey, Anthony don't want to lose," or "Anthony don't want to lose." What do you guys just figure it out?
No, see, my experience with him was he wanted to go over spots by spot.
Well, that was between them, but I mean.
So you don't even need to be involved in that.
They go, well, he don't want to do this. Like, come on.
Figure it out, you know, and remind me to not call you next time, you know. And there's the worst ones with it's always tough because not all the time, because there's some real garbage out there too. Most of the time, these guys that don't get it, they don't get it. To get mad at them accomplishes nothing because they don't understand. Not everybody understands professional wrestling because this shit is.
After a few lessons at a school,
you don't get it. You're never gonna get it. But to be around something as weird as pro wrestling and unique, there is nothing like even doing what we're doing here right now. It's not unlike anything else.
It's the greatest form of entertainment when done correctly, but the most pathetic when done incorrectly.
I don't like being embarrassed, and this is what's gotten me heat over the years, and I've had a lot of it. I hate when somebody is happy to present a terrible show or book terrible wrestlers. Me saying somebody's bad isn't me being an asshole.
That's a jab at us because I'm wrestling on the next show.
I'm always putting you over, but if I was to watch the tape and I call you up and go, "Hey Bob, come on, bud, you need to be at the level that you're."
Just change my number.
You agree, though. It's one of those things where
other people lie to me. I'm hard enough on myself. I don't need other people to be hard on me.
That's the thing with you, as it probably would go easier on the person delivering the message because you're incapable of accepting compliments. I found that out many, many years ago. Self-deprecating to a level that's legendary. But what's cool that you're doing, though, I wasn't down here, so if there's things I wasn't aware of, but the way you and Rick, you guys have really stepped up as far as helping the next generation and being around and advice and the whole thing. And I'm watching you guys enjoy it. That's the cool thing. Neither one of you look like anybody's dragging you to any of these functions or shows or doing things like this. To give up your time, at your very, very advanced age.
Well, I think it might be time to end
this. This has honestly been so fun. I'm sorry if I went off on a tangent, and if you're watching the video, I don't make a lot of eye contact, and my eyes drift, and I also talk to the cameraman. That is like the invisible, Obviously, we got somebody here with us filming this thing, and when I'm talking, I like to have an
ever to train to be a professional wrestler, the blue collar man himself, Joseph Saraceni.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for doing this too, man. There's there's not a lot of appreciation for guys that sacrifice money, time, and to have a love of the business to the level of doing something like this. And you were nice enough to give me a tour inside the house. I love pro wrestling, and I usually am very, very hard to get in with or impress because I don't believe anybody's really got the heart. I put it at I wasn't a bumping wrestler, so if this is out of line to some, that's just the way it is. Not everybody, most people don't have the heart that some of us have. I'm not going away because I plan on wearing out my welcome. I got a lot more to give. And I'm here to tell you that if you haven't been to a show in a while and you're a former worker, or even more importantly, a former fan, come out and see a Devin Diaz, see a Benji Neptune, this kid Daniel Starling. If you guys, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to see him. He needs to spend more time in the gym, and I think he's working on that because he doesn't have height on his to his advantage, so he's going to have to get in shape. But technically, him and Brian Brock are the ones that impressed me the most as far as what we would consider old school pro wrestling. He reminds me a lot. If you saw him, it just didn't factor in size. Eric Embry, some Buddy Landell, but just maybe a little bit of Bobby Jaggers, but does these really. I saw him and Frankie work an entire match for Cahagas in Winter Haven. Not one bump in the entire match, and the crowd was going bonkers. They're going crazy. They didn't bump once and did some. Frankie screwed up. The kid was able to give him a schoolboy. Referee, quick 1, 2, 3, because Frankie been messing with the ref the whole time. Not one bump. The crowd came unglued at the finish.
Like Dick Murdoch and Ronnie Garvin at the Advanced Sports Complex years ago. Ronnie comes in the dressing room and says, "What are we going to do tonight, Dickie?" And he says, "We're going to start slow and taper off." And they go out there for 15 minutes and had the crowd in a row with a headlock.
That's so good.
That's working. Well, anyway, I know it's getting late, and I don't want to rush you, but we usually don't go more than an hour. We actually have to go to the gym.
Yeah, I have to drive a long way home, and I mentioned to you guys earlier, I'd rather give whoever is cool enough to spend their time watching this. I said I'd rather give them a good hour. I got a million more stories. We can do this again, and I'd like to come check out the matches one of these nights. Kind of work out where if I'm in the area or whatever. But if I'm not here, if it's not being streamed, get it to me so I can watch. I'd like to send some critique stuff through you.
We got the first show on YouTube. We got the other show we did last month. If worked on edited.
If you're gonna stream now, again the offerings or the pickings I'm sure are kind of slim. But if you're gonna stream and you put somebody on commentary, try to. The kid that runs down in Fort Myers, I can't think of his name, and I feel guilty. He's actually pretty good on commentary. I don't know, Yes, yeah, he's actually pretty good.
Who did our last one, Jordan and
Jordan's pretty good. Yeah, and he.
You can speak up because I don't remember.
Yeah, he has the again.
Corey C4, he called him.
Okay, I don't know him, but if he's hanging around with him, he's probably. And they'll get better if you guys give him some reps. I'm not, their agent but it's just one of those things. If it's going to look this good as far as the aesthetics and putting money and time, give them something in the ring that people are going to go, oh, there's something special going on there. That's where somebody will surprise you, and somebody you'd never think would go, can I come and do one? That happens, so, you guys are doing a good thing here. I appreciate you calling me. Bob, always great. Hopefully we're going to be doing more stuff together. Who would have thought?
Everything is a work in progress.
Yeah, it is.
Step at a time. But I do appreciate you coming.
All right, brother. Thank you.
I love you, Ron.
Love you too. Thank you.
The Cooker's Corner one more time. Next time, we're hoping to have the legendary Denny Brown on the show.
Former NWA World Junior. Yes. Yeah, that's cool.
Denny's been talking about having a match with me for years. We may be old, but when the bell rings, we can still go.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Till next time.